So the point is just we're touching the edges of psychological complexes. You can have someone that's, say, schizophrenic or has a really autistic thing or has some special, really unique problem. But it'll be in the planets. And then you'll see it embellished and how it's colored by the signs. You'll see how energy is trying to be expressed through the houses. But you'll see the stress complexes within a person from seeing these levels of consciousness and how they relate to each other, how each planet affects each other. But don't hold it just to one keyword. Try and get 3 or 4 different focuses on it. Then it's being consistent. You're seeing it across a number of things. Whew. You got to go see your mom. You had trouble with your mom. You got to go said something wrong. You got to go see your mom. Well, it helps to have a good night's sleep and eat well before you go see her. Or not worry. So Moon Mercury can cause a lot of worries. Venus Moon causes envies, not exactly worries. The Moon can be worrisome and Mercury can be worrisome. So the Moon is really the moody side of worrying. So the Sun. It's interesting, in history, it used to be if someone had difficult aspects between the Sun and the Moon, it represented bad eyesight because the past and the future were there. But that was because in older astrology, the Sun was the right eye of the man and the Moon was the left eye of the man, whereas the Moon is the right eye of the woman and the Sun is the left eye of the woman, and we look at each other Sun to Sun, Moon to Moon. So if you had difficult aspects, it affected your eyesight. But with the electronic world we live in, almost everybody has bad eyesight. It may be a tendency to be more, but it's not so much the factor now. But your past and your future, your diet and your confidence, your physical being and your security is a result of how you've lived all the way up till now. Well, that can be depressing just thinking about that for a second. Okay, but then your confidence comes in. Well, I can cope with that. Or I can't cope with it. So how much is your past stronger than your future? And are each of them struggling to interfere with your ability to be here now, in the moment? Whew. So for everybody, this inner matrix is really important to have a sense of that in everybody. And when you're doing charts for lots of people, you hardly ever have time to do all of this. But when you get into a problem or you get into something intense with it, you have to slow it down and back up and come back to this. Then you start seeing this, oh, look at that. Then once you have this inner quality of a person, how good or bad it is or what phases they're going through in it or whatever, you get a sense of this. Then you can begin to see how they put energy out and begin to react with the world outside of them. So much of our outer reactions is really conditioned by the fact of our Moon, Mercury, and Venus, and our Sun. It's our interpersonal style. Now, so again, all I'm thinking is don't think conjunction square opposite. You see what it is? It's a stressful aspect. There's tension between these two. And even if it's a square, even if it's an opposition or a conjunction, you're still having to make it better than worse. You have to work through it to get rid of the bad struggle, to get rid of the bad tastes that are affecting your lifestyle. Or if you're used to drinking, how do you get rid of the alcohol? How do you get rid of the drugs? How do you get rid of the bad habits living with someone? How do you eat properly and cook for yourself? How do you sleep regularly with that, or turn off the TV sometime? All these things are Moon problems. They're part of your style. You can measure, where someone is. So it's important to be able to walk into this dimension, into these 3 layers or 4 layers of consciousness. So as we add the outer layers of how we put energy out and how we run into it, that's Mars. We're putting energy out and we're running into it. But how we react to it is our Venus, our Mercury, Venus, how we interpret what's going on. So these inner qualities have a tremendous effect on how we put energy out. And here you get tremendous insights, like if you have a kid that's autistic and doesn't have a sense of boundaries and is hitting other people in school and they don't really realize it or whatever. Wow, this is a treasure house of understanding. To come to this, it doesn't solve it immediately, but it gives you the focus on how come. Then you have to work on it and live with it for a while and figure it out. Doesn't make it necessarily easier, but it lets you go directly to the source and helps you be less dissipated. It's like being tuned into someone rather than playing a tuned instrument sounds much better than an untuned one. Most of us are running through our life with, if each of the planets is an instrument in our band, most of us are playing with unrelated, untuned instruments, and they're all creating a discordant punk rock music, or sort of music. It takes a lot of effort to slow it down, to calm it down, to get everything tuned properly, and to play it. This is the yoga. In fact, every aspect was considered a yoga in China. In India, you had your 5 basic yogas: Mercury, Raja, Venus, Hatha, Mars, no, Venus, Bhakti, Mars, Hatha, Jupiter, Jnana, Wisdom Yoga, and Saturn, Karma Yoga. So you had your 5 basic yogas. In China, it was the 5 elements. Same thing as yogas. And these yogas were how to deal with these problems of these planets and still stay in touch with God, or your inner spirit. So every planet was a main yoga, but every aspect was its own sub-yoga. So there's a yoga for the moon Mercury of how to build this up, how to stay in union with your spirit or in now, even though that aspect is there. You know, like sometimes it's good for people to be out of the house and get out of it. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes, like, well, sometimes it's easy to live with someone. Sometimes it's not. You know, so like all this fact. So this is this inner depth. It's profound, very useful. When you get to Mars and how you put out energy, you start running out into things, but your interpretation, Mercury, your value of what you like or don't like, and how you feel secure about it is how you're measuring what you're doing and what you're getting from what you're doing. What you're getting from what you're doing is Venus. What you're thinking about what you're doing, you're thinking about what to do, that's your Mercury to Mars. How you're feeling about what you're doing, that's your moon. So someone that has a moon-Mars conjunction, square, or opposition, they're going to have stress factors between their desire for experience and the need to feel secure, which means they won't get out of their feelings of security or insecurity until they have to, until there's a fight or a challenge, until there's some stress or some anger. This is an anger aspect. This is an irritation aspect. This is a driving fast aspect. This is a fighting competitive aspect, a sibling rivalry aspect. But someone with the moon Mars, they don't get fed easily. They'll throw things and whatever. I don't want this. Their inner reactions is not what they want. Or when they're trying to think and they're trying to act on their thoughts, they push too hard, or they hurt themselves. It can be accident prone, but it really is a fight between the mother and and your muscles and the mother, your diet, your nutrition, and your energy. If you're putting out more energy and you're not recharging with how you're living and sleeping, you're going to burn out sooner or later. Most business people, hustling on 5-10 cups of coffee a day, speeding, getting by in 4 or 5 hours sleep if they have, they're going to burn out. Can't think right, they won't live right, they won't be secure, they won't have their confidence, and they'll misuse the energy eventually. They'll use it, but the Mars to Moon means this active energy is stressful to your lifestyle. So you're either pumped, a lot of athletes will have it because they're pumped up and they're aggressive with their lifestyle. They're fighting their lifestyle to be more in shape. The Mars is stronger, but you still have to fight with the lifestyle to eat this, to not eat that, to do this, to live this way. And if you try and live with them, it's abrasive. It's not comfortable. There's a forceful element around where they're living. And when they go back home to family and mother, there's first going to be some anger, or some upset, or some power struggle. It doesn't have to be anger. It can be a power struggle. It can be all the subtle ways of force, but that Mars is really anger, energy, aggression, adrenaline, and it gets you. So what happens the minute something happens, you start feeling it and taking it personally almost way too fast. Or your feelings or your moods, that happened to me before, so I'm really mad now. I'm blowing up because you did that to me before. I had to get even with you. So you see how the Mars can affect the Moon. Feeling, it's affecting, you keep bringing, I have to do this myself. I keep bringing it back to what's feelings. Feelings, it's just my memory. So when I'm remembering, I'm going to remember it fast. As soon as I get memory, I'm going to act on it. I may not have the patience to control that. And if I act on my memories too fast, I can misjudge things and get in trouble. Or if I mean, with Mars, you can do anything you want if you're prepared, if you've worked at it, if you've done things. But the Moon is your instincts, and it tends to make your instincts reckless, or forceful, or aggressive. And so whenever someone comes close to you, they're going to feel they're threatening you, or they're going to be a competitive or angriness with it, or I have to prove this to you. I have to do this. I made you a cake. Here, eat it. Sit down. No, I'm busy. Sit down and eat it. I made it. You're late for dinner. Where were you? I did all this. So you can see how the aggression is coming to affect the moods and the feelings. Well, you do that consistently, it's going to create different types of disease. Any of these aspects, if the negative is maintained consistently, Moon, Mercury, poor perception will create mental diseases. Venus, emotional diseases. Addictions are emotional diseases which are being treated like, by most people, they got mental problems in the world. It's a mental disorder. And most of the things in the world, like all the need for mental awareness, like we get it from police shooting people with seemingly mental problems. But a lot of those mental problems are emotional, not necessarily mental. Like the addiction results can affect the mind and mess up your mind, but it's really an emotional problem. Okay, so when it's positive, there's a spontaneous ability to just take the initiative. I feel like this. Okay, I'm just going to do it. You have there's a spontaneous ease of. So I do something. I'm usually not going to. I mean, your memories can be affected by each of the planets. So good and bad things can happen. But generally, when it comes to, let's see, I got Moon trine Venus, so it's not really I have Mars, Moon trine Mars. So I have lots of stress on my Mars, I have lots of stress on my Moon, so I got all kinds of problems with it. But when it comes to acting on my feelings, well, I can binge out for a number of months and I put my weight up. Then all of a sudden, okay, I just switch to go on a diet, and suddenly I'm on a liquid diet for 5 or 6 months, and I take the weight back off. It allowed me to be fairly coordinated, doing my own thing, even though I came out of an abusive home situation. I was out in nature, climbing trees, doing things. I thought I had the great upbringing, but it's there's a spontaneous between your outer action and your basic patterns. So I generally can eat in a way that pumps up my energy and works well. But if you're not eating right and you're trying to do things, it can make you acidic. It can make all the digestive and moon things of digestion, nutrition. They can be made abrasive by being pushed or being too much sugar, too much carb. So you'll see Moon Mars characters. Now you say, okay, there's a Moon Mars character, but that person with Moon Mars, there can be 12 different signs of the Moon, totally different natures of that Moon Mars person.